Welcome into I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. This is the college football week 10 reaction show. I can't believe I just said 10. I can't believe it's been double-digit weeks in college football. Tyson, it's about to be Thanksgiving in like 2 weeks, right as we blink. Isn't that insane?
It's really been 11 weeks of college football because they stuffed week 0 full of games this year too. So, I mean, we've been in double digits now for like 14 days, my friend.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Yeah, and so, but yet, nobody's played double-digit games yet. That's what we'll get to. We're going to preview it at the end here, and then we'll give out our bets later in the week, and then we'll get some double-digit games, double buys and all that stuff. But, man, I mean, it's over. I mean, college football is done.
It's over, yeah. I mean, might as well wrap it up. We're NBA fans now.
So we got a lot to break down, though. College football playoff first ranking did come out, so that'll be a part of a segment that we want to talk about. And we're being a little facetious, so these are going to be some of the best games. And again, we'll preview. But first, you know what we got to do, Tyson? We got to tell some people where we were right.
I told you so.
And there wasn't a whole lot I could take credit for. But I said Texas A&M was going to Texas A&M, and boy, did they Texas A&M against South Carolina in a hard way. I mean, 44-20. South Carolina went up early, 14-3 at the end of the first quarter. A&M tried to make it a game. They got back into it. But my boy Beamer, Cocktober is rolling, baby. They thought it was gonna be Cocktober. It's Cockvember, I should say. I gotta amend things here. You talked about Lenore Sellers before we got on, 13-23, 244, 2 tuds. Raheem Sanders has now re-earned his nickname Rocket from you.
Rocket.
20 for 144 and 2 tuds. Happy for Beamer, and it's a good win for South Carolina.
No, and it certainly feels like some of those teams that caught South Carolina early in the season are thinking they're lucky stars because this team looks pretty scary right now. And maybe that was an overreaction to Elko and A&M, but maybe South Carolina is just good. And I think that is actually what's going on. I told you so. I'm going all the way back to the preseason, baby. UConn is going bowling, Brad. UConn is 6 wins. Mel Brown, Nick Evers, the Huskies, they're going to do it. Jim Mora and the boy. Like, this is crazy. They haven't looked like they look bad against a bad Georgia Southern team, I thought, but they won the game. And you only need 6 of these things to get to where they want to be. Is UConn a football school now?
Well, I think if they hadn't won the 2 natties on the basketball side, I think they would have been making an argument.
Oh, come on.
But how about Jim Mora, though, man? I mean, God, doesn't it feel like we were talking about this? It feels ages ago that he was at UCLA now.
It feels like, to me, like I was in middle school.
We might have been, actually, but I mean, he was coaching the Falcons when we were in like elementary school, wasn't he? Like, good God, dude. Well, I mean, how time flies, it's crazy. But Tyson, we can't just take credit for stuff. We got to admit where we got some things wrong as well.
I've made a huge mistake. Hand up.
Oh, man. Penn State. Just another year. And I was out for this one. I was at a Penn State bar. Some alumni there. Had some friends in town, Penn State fans. And we kind of knew this was going to be the same old story. We were confident. Tyson and I, he took the 3.5. I took money line just for the story. And this thing just fell apart. Go up on the pick 6, 10-0, and just things fell off the rails. Fluke plays. It seems to always go against the way of Penn State in this one. And once again, they can't get over the hump. It's another loss to an Ohio State team that was gettable. That's been the same story for the last couple of years. I mean, Penn State has finally started to get on the same talent plane. Now, there's still huge gaps. Once again, Ohio State's $25 million roster really shone through in this one. Penn State doesn't have a receiver that can get open on a route, so a couple different things there. But I digress. This is a game that Penn State had a chance to win. Also, shout out Fox completely screwing this game up. How the hell do you not have any primetime games and this is at noon? Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. This is supposed to be about college and the atmosphere, not about you guys stuff in your pockets. But what just a brutal way. And the fact that it was at noon and the fact that I was on the West Coast, the fact that I get to get up at 9 and start shotgunning beers like I was still back in college made this one even more worse.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've seen that exact game 7 times in like the last 7 years, it feels like. Did you see what Brady Quinn said about Penn State needs to stop complaining the game wasn't at night and just focus on beating Ohio State? Look, Brady, you're a college football legend, and that's awesome. You know damn well The football games are different when you have 102,000 rowdy people in there at 6 p.m. versus the atmosphere that you're going to get at 10 a.m. And does Penn State win if that game's at night? Who knows? But it would have been a lot more fun for everybody involved. So I'm with you, and I think that Brady Quinn could shove it. My hand up, take your pick. I was wrong about everything this week. I don't think I hit a bet. I don't think that I was right about any of my pregame stuff. But you know what, Brad? Let's go back to Wednesday, October 30th. I'm talking pre-Halloween, because before the season, I was looking at those Liberty playoff odds, and I was going, are you guys serious? It's Caden Salter. It's Quentin Cooley. Like, this team is going to be good. They stink. They have 2 losses. Okay, so they're 5-2. Maybe they don't stink. But their 2 losses are in a row. One of them is to a team that has never beaten an FBS opponent, and you lose that game somewhat convincingly, like in a way where it was like, oh, they're actually just worse than Kennesaw. That's cool to know. And then Jacksonville State just runs for 400 yards against them. Just ran through them. Caden Salter hasn't been good this season. I think that's kind of been slept on. But for a team that, like, the reason I wanted to bring Liberty up, they consistently have been playing in the middle of the week when people aren't watching. And then so you're still getting some of these, well, Liberty could be sneaky and blah, blah. Liberty's not good. Like, Liberty's in danger of, and now they got to win to go bowling.
Yeah, and I hate it for Jamie Chadwell because he was such a star at Coastal. This hire, I mean, his decision to go here and leave Coastal made 0 sense. Like, why did you not? I don't know if it was something that, family-wise, he wanted to go take this job or what, but is the rose off the bloom on that one?
Maybe. Well, we're gonna talk maybe a little bloom later here in the show.
Yeah, we got some hot takes we're gonna get fired up here. That's for sure. But Tyson, we got to go one step further. We can't just admit we made a mistake. You know what time it is, folks.
Donkey of the day.
And I called myself out a couple weeks ago. I'm calling Mike Gundy this time. And it's not just so much that I believed in them with you have a ton of returning experience. I think the most returning experience in the country. But what does that get you? That gets you a 3-6 record. Tyson, they're 0-6 in Big 12 play.
Yeah, but they beat South Dakota State.
Just, you're right. Hang the banner. I mean, this is despicable. Honestly, there's no other way to say it. I've never been a huge Mike Gundy guy. I think he's more of a caricature than anything, and he's a classic college football caricature, and we love that. And we love our college football guys, like Spurriers and the Leaches, and people who just make us laugh because it's college football and it's such a wacky sport. And Gundy for a long time has been that. But this is going to get a lot more competitive now in the Big 12. And I don't want to say anything too much like, he's not good enough for the job. He's the most winningest coach ever. He's the most successful coach ever in that program's history. But to compete at a Power 4 level against programs who are now funneling money in, that's the reason why they left the Pac-12. The reason why they came to this conference is to compete for a national championship. This cannot be the result that happens when you have a ton of returning talent, when you have a quarterback that's supposed to take the next step. We never truly believe in Alan Bowman as like a national. I'm not just saying this show or us, and I don't even really think Oklahoma State necessarily did. But this is the second year as a starter. You're supposed to be the QB guy. You're supposed to be the offensive guy. For him to look like that, for this offense to be this poor is completely unacceptable. And to do that with all this returning talent is wild to me. And I'm pretty shocked and surprised that this is happening.
Especially in like a year where the Big 12 just kind of unfolded in a way that is like, it feels wide open. We know BYU is undefeated, and we're still kind of being disrespectful there a little bit. But with your Kansas State's losing and your Iowa State's losing and all that stuff, it's like Oklahoma State's supposed to fill that role. And maybe Gundy was right. They should put QR codes on the helmets because he needs some help. Get donating. Get out there and donate to the good folks in Stillwater because they need as much help as they can get. Brad, my donkey of the day is us. I know you did you the other week, but this one is on me and you because how did we not see Clemson going full Clemson here against Louisville? They're at home. The offense is clicking. Cade Klubnik's throwing for 1,000,000 yards a game. Nobody can stop him. Dude, they scored 21 points against like not a great defense, against a defense that was exposed for the most part for almost 60 minutes by Boston College. Right, and they can't even throw the football down the field. And then they come in here. Louisville wins the game convincingly. Doesn't necessarily dash Clemson's hopes here at like an ACC championship, but it puts a pretty massive damper on the college football playoff fire here for the Clemson Tigers. And I'm just upset with us because this was a classic Clemson losing spot, and we didn't see it coming. We bought in, and we were wrong. Muted.
Oh, thank you. I don't know how that happened. But they have to win out now. I mean, Clemson has to win, or they're cooked. So, boy, and you did not. I mean, God, they were favorites to win the ACC. Everybody's buying them over Miami. I mean, yeah, it's classic. I mean, that's ACC football. That's Clemson football, baby. But Tyson, some of the bigger ones here, and we both kind of agreed. So we got an angle on this. But upset of the week. Let's get into that.
Upset of the week.
So both Iowa State and Kansas State lost. Now, Iowa State is the 11th ranked team at the time, lost at home 22-23 against Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech now is bowl eligible, much better than they were a year ago when I fell for the okie doke. Thanks, guys. But this was the shocking one, really. How about Kansas State going on the road against a Houston Cougars team that's just not been good? Now, they're 3-3 in conference play, so your boy Willie Fritz just continues to be excellent everywhere he goes. But 19 points against a Houston defense. I'm sorry. Kansas State only scores 3 in the second half. They give up 14 unanswered in the fourth quarter, lose that game. Let's kind of break this down from what you saw and what you're thinking, how it impacts Colorado, which is really why we're throwing this in here.
Well, I think Iowa State's is interesting because it just felt like maybe they played with fire too many times this season and they weren't able to pull another magic trick off and escape here. And look, Texas Tech isn't world beaters by any means, but they're a better team than I think most people thought they were going to be coming into the season. Iowa State still shouldn't have lost that game, and maybe that's a Campbell thing. You're just going to lose some of these sometimes. And it's the same thing at Kansas State. This feels like a team that just can't quite get over the hump for whatever the reason is. I mean, earlier this year when they get bodied by BYU, it was like, well, maybe BYU is good, and they just caught it. It's elevation, Brad, and they're on the road, and it's a short week and all that stuff. There's no excuses for this one, and this is a Big 12 that we talked about just a little bit ago being wide open. Right now, it sits at BYU undefeated in conference, 5-0, undefeated overall too at 8-0, and then Iowa State's 4-1 in conference. They still have a shot. Colorado sneaks up past Kansas State here. They're 4-1 in conference. Colorado's schedule to close the season looks a little bit less daunting maybe than we thought it was going to be after the Nebraska game. They have to play Texas Tech. That could end up being a scary one, but it does kind of feel like a couple of weeks ago when we were toying with the idea of taking Colorado to win the Big 12 on FanDuel Sportsbook, that would have been a better bet than if we made it today.
Yeah, I listen, we talked about this from putting our hand up, and this was one of mine, and you kind of agreed with me. The way Colorado is now, I'm going to pound the table. How is nobody talking about Colorado? They are now in the driver's seat to be the Big 12 representatives, in my opinion. Because they're going to have a coin flip game against BYU. We'll see what that line is. But they're in control of their destiny here. They went out. They will be competing for the college football playoff. This isn't the Fugazi Colorado team from last year. This is a really good football team. They're better in the trenches. They're bigger, stronger. They have more weapons. They're better coached, I think, overall. The fact that this radio is silent about Colorado is shocking. And these losses opened up the possibility. I mean, Iowa State, like you said, we thought they were the best team after, kind of the crowd started getting a little thinner. They, like you said, they play with fire too much. How can you trust them? You look at the stats here. I'm pulling it up. Rocco Becht, who we think, like a lot of people think could be an NFL guy. He goes 23 of 39 for 299. Pretty impressive on the surface. But for 2 touchdowns, but he has the pick, a 40.4 QBR in the college level. Not necessarily great. They ran for 133 yards on the ground. That's more if you take out the Becht's 8 rushes for 1 yard, a couple sacks in there. You know how college works. And then on the flip side, Kansas State, Avery Johnson, Tyson, something similar, like 23 of 39, 238, touchdowns with 2 picks. So these were just games that this is how you lose in college football, right? You just have a couple missed timely errors here. One team scores late, and all of a sudden you're staring down the barrel and you can't do anything about it. That's Big 12 football.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's a little bit it just might be these two coaches, man. And we talk about college coaches all the time, but you can't, like, when guys go to the NFL, you can't scout helmets. Sometimes you're looking at these games, you're looking at the lines and going, this kind of feels like when they're going to lose.
Yeah, Campbell especially. Kleiman, we like him, and it's hard to win at Kansas State, but you can't lose this Houston team. I think that's scary for him going forward. Let's be honest here. If Avery Johnson leaves, Willie Fritz gets it built up in Houston. I mean, he was doing this stuff at Tulane when nobody cares down in New Orleans.
If he starts really, really recruiting the Houston area, we got another powerhouse to watch out for.
And I'll tell you what, that thins out the SEC. That's
in the same rooms as LSU and Alabama and Georgia, and he's not going to pull 50% of these kids. But if he starts to pull in 10% of these guys that are supposed to be SEC, Texas, and whatever else, and he starts stealing that, we have a real sleeping giant in college football.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So keep an eye on that. But Tyson, let's get into the biggest storyline.
Biggest storylines.
First edition, college football playoff rankings. Now, we'll have something different on this going forward. We're thinking about doing our own segment, maybe live reaction, just depending on how our schedules work out and everything like that. But let's break down what we have this time around. Number 1 overall, Oregon. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Georgia. Number 4, Miami. Number 5, Texas. Number 6, Penn State. Number 7, Tennessee. Number 8, Indiana. Number 9, BYU. Number 10, Notre Dame. Number 11, Alabama. And then the group of 5 representative would be Boise State at number 12. This is going to be open discussion. You guys listening here, we want to hear your comments. So if you made it this far, let us know what you think about this. When you watch these rankings, what just popped out to you off the cuff?
What the hell does Indiana have to do to get more respect? That's really what I'm thinking. This is an undefeated Big Ten team, beating teams by more than Michigan beat teams by a year ago, looking more impressive in their wins than Michigan looked like a year ago. And I'm not picking on Michigan. I'm using them as the benchmark because they were the freaking national champions. Indiana is just continually, like, the way that this sets up right now, Brad, with them debuting here at 8, is that if they lose to Ohio State, that's it. That's the way that this certainly looks to me. Now, obviously, there could be some shakeups if BYU stumbles or if Notre Dame loses again. We'll see what happens with the winner of LSU, Alabama. All of that stuff could end up benefiting a one-loss Indiana team, but that sure felt like, to me, they were trying to give the shaft to Indiana and BYU. And to me, I think Indiana's been a lot more impressive with what they've done this season and who they've beaten this season than BYU has. I don't know necessarily how much higher I would have put them, but they're in the same conference as your boys at Penn State. And I know Penn State only has the 1 loss, but an undefeated Big Ten school being below all these schools is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it looks weird on the surface. It also looks weird to have Indiana and BYU in the top 10. Yeah. Let's be honest here. I think, the first thing that really stuck out to me is the whole conversation is a 3-loss SEC team gunning into the conference playoff. Now, I know you see Alabama here at 6-2 at 11, and beyond them you have Texas A&M 2-loss team at 14, 2-loss LSU team at 15, 2-loss Ole Miss team at 16. This to me signals there will not be a 3-loss football team in the college football playoff.
There needs to be chaos.
I think you'd have to have a lot of chaos, to be completely honest. Because let's say this. Let's say Indiana only loses to Ohio State, they're in. Penn State, let's say they win out, they're in. Oregon wins out, they lose the conference championship game. That would mean Ohio State would win out, they win. So there's 1 loss for the Big Ten. Georgia, let's say they went out, that's 1 loss. Miami probably going to win out. Let's say they lose the ACC championship game, 1 loss. Texas, maybe there's some chaos. That's 2 losses. I just don't see there's a path. Now, you include BYU in there. Let's say they lose to Colorado. That's an auto berth. Are you going to keep out BYU with 1 loss? I don't think so in a Power 4. Notre Dame, if they beat Army, they'll be in the playoff. They're going to have 1 loss. And then you got your group of 5. So I'm seeing a slim thing here. I mean, what's obviously chaos, right? But outside of like just complete everybody and their mom is like, whoa, what's going on here? Look at this. This is a crazy weekend. I don't think we're going to see a 3-loss team in.
My brother, if LSU beats Alabama in a 2-point game this weekend, Alabama's going to 13, and Alabama's moving up the second that there's an opening in this top 12. They don't deserve to be 11 right now, but I do think that there's a real possibility they're still going to get the Bama boost. It would have to be a loss this weekend to LSU because the committee can look at that and go, well, they lost to who we think is the number 15 team in the country on the road, by, let's just say 3 points. So let's say LSU wins in another walk-off, something like that. Then I don't think they're going to drop that far. There will not be a 3-loss team if it's LSU. There won't be a 3-loss team if it's Ole Miss. There won't be a 3-loss team if it's Texas A&M. But if there's a 3-loss Alabama here and their losses, we'll sweep the Vanderbilt one under the rug. Look at how much fun Vandy's been all season. They beat Georgia. They're going to, if a 3-loss SEC team gets in, it will most definitely be Alabama.
How about that, folks? God, there would be riots in the street.
I'm right, by the way. You know it.
You know what? I think the Bama boost, and you're kind of saying it a little facetiously, but it is true, right? I mean, we kind of all roll our eyes at it, but it's a brand, and if there's going to be chaos.
At the end of the day, man, this thing is about selling as many commercials as they can, and Bama gets more eyes on the TV for us to start singing the Whopper, Whopper, Whopper song.
And now tickets. I mean, this is going to be, and not that they care, the CFP, but the network sure do. They want people back and they want it to look good. And that's interesting. All right, well, Boise State at 12. I think they're in the driver's seat, right?
Have to be.
They have to be. Anything else that caught your eye? Go overall. Anything else in here?
I was encouraged to see SMU debut at 13. That to me looks an awful lot like they have a real shot at this thing. I was kind of thinking that there was a chance they were going to get shoved behind, your A&Ms, LSUs, Ole Misses, kind of that bundle of SEC schools, which would essentially have been the death of SMU's playoff host. But they're on life support right now. I do think that they get jumped by any of these teams winning some more higher leverage spots than SMU has left on their schedule. But I do think that this 12-team playoff at a certain point, like when it was 4, you could get upset that the 5th team was better than the 4th team. But I'm not going to sit here and nitpick 12 versus 13 right now.
And I got to say, these matchups are just sick. I mean, Penn State hosting Notre Dame and Happy Valley, that's ridiculous. You want to talk about just an insane game. That would be awesome. Tennessee, Indiana. I mean, the pageantry of those two schools alone. Now, I know Indiana is not known for football stuff, but when you have a big basketball game, they go all out for that. And they're going to do that for a football game. I mean,
they're showing out. This is all setting up for Kurt Cignetti to win a national championship.
Oh, man.
Come on.
My brother's going to be super excited to hear you say that. He's sick, man. He is sick. I will say this, though, before we kind of move on. I was pretty impressed with the committee. I mean, this could have been a disaster for him. I mean, Oregon, I think you have to put number 1. Completely makes sense that Ohio State's at 2. Mm-hmm. Georgia going through here, 3. That makes sense to me. And then Miami, I mean, we both think they're fugazi. They should have 3 losses, but they're 9-0. That's a reality. I mean, you have to. And then let's go through the 1-loss teams. Texas better than Penn State. I think Penn State's better than Tennessee. Perfect. Now, where we get a little frustrated, you and I, is Indiana, BYU. Okay, we can kind of look at their strength of schedule, be like, whatever. And I agree, if it is, more high-profile teams, we probably bump them up. Notre Dame, the loss to the A&M, you got to keep them down. And Alabama, 2 losses. That's the one I had the most problem with. I mean, I just went through that, so I won't go on a soliloquy there. I think SMU should have probably been at 12 and Boise State at 11. I mean, SMU's only loss on the road to the number 9 ranked team in the country, if we're being honest here, and BYU. So, and they're in the Power 4 conference now, so you can't use that against them. But I thought they did a good job when I kind of layered it and look at it. And we're not going to go through the whole top 25 here, folks, but I take a peek there and go through it. I was impressed.
Yeah, and shout out to Army being able to say that they were 25th in the first poll here. That's pretty huge for them. Missouri sucks. But we were talking before the show. It was like we don't generally care about the bottom of the top 25. The conversation is about the top. This gives us something a little bit more to care about. I'm really interested to see the way the Big 12 plays out, because they grouped all those schools below BYU in kind of a way that says we're not actually sure who's better between these 3.
Iowa State, Kansas State, Colorado, right there. Yeah, that's interesting. And how about Wazoo, huh? 21st, 7-1.
I can't believe
it. Go for them. All right, Tyson, that's enough looking in the rear view. Let's look ahead to this week.
Playbook preview.
And we want to talk about elimination games. One of them's on the line here. First one, number 3, Georgia, going in the face, number 16, Ole Miss. Now, Tyson, I got to admit to you here, this is the time for Lane Kiffin to step up. This is time for Lane Kiffin to prove that he's not just another big game loser. They went into the transfer portal. They went and upgraded their interior, both sides of the football. This is a time, Jackson Dart, you're in this stage of your college career, that you can compete against the Georgia defense. This is the gettable Georgia team. I know they look great against Texas on the road. I thought that set up perfectly for them. This one's interesting. This, to me, is about coaching. I thought Texas was going to win that game. I didn't think it was coming down to coaching. Thought Texas had maybe bad players based on what we saw against the Alabama team. But, man, oh, man, Tyson, I got to admit, you know how I said there's a mobile quarterback? That's what Georgia struggles with. Jackson Dart's got to be mobile in this one. I mean, he has to be mobile for Georgia to be a little sweaty on defense. What are you looking for in this one?
Well, I'm closely monitoring. Trey Harris is doubtful. Jordan Watkins is doubtful. Caden Lee is questionable. If you don't know who those are, that's pretty much the trio of Ole Miss wide receivers that you need to know about. Henry Parrish isn't going to play. Logan Diggs isn't going to play for Ole Miss. This is a banged-up team at the worst possible time for them. Georgia didn't look good at all to me. I thought they were going to put the boots to Florida. And Carson Beck sucks at football. I think that's okay for us to say at this point, dude. This guy sucks. He's so bad. So maybe he throws 7 interceptions and Ole Miss gets by. But it does feel like maybe going to they're showing up with a squirt gun, really, to a fight here because they're down all their best players.
Yeah, that does. I didn't, they scored a bunch of points too, so everybody's thinking that they probably should do the same here. But Tyson, on paper, EPA wise, I love looking at this stuff. Georgia offense 7th in EPA per rush, 19th in EPA per drop back. Ole Miss 2nd in stopping the run. They've been really good on that front. 21st in stopping the pass. Flip side, Ole Miss offense 18th in EPA per rush. Georgia defense 7th. Ole Miss offense 4th in EPA per pass. Georgia defense 15th. So it's interesting. I mean, on paper, this is a game that Ole Miss can compete in. This is under roughly a field goal game at home with Georgia being the favorites. So this is one that Lane's got to win here.
No doubt. I mean, there's been a million Lane Kiffin games he has to win, and he's immortal.
Your boys, Alabama, number 11th ranked team, facing LSU. Now, I really do think this is an eliminator here. Like I went through, guys, I don't think 3 losses get in. I really don't. So whoever wins this keeps their playoff dream alive. Whoever loses is done in my estimation. Tyson, you guys know by now, LSU fan. He says he's not nervous, so I'll let him explain why.
Well, I'm never nervous for the big ones under BK. We talked about it a little bit. I get nervous for the Texas A&M games. I get nervous for the Ole Miss games. Going into games like this, like when he was playing Saban, it was just kind of, or when he plays Kirby, it's kind of like, well, somehow he's going to find a way to win this one, and then they're going to lose, to Tulane or whoever else left on the schedule. But one of the reasons I'm a little bit less nervous about this game than I was going into the A&M game, which they ultimately got pounded in that second half, and a lot of that was because of Marcel Reese, who comes in and runs for 1 billion yards. A&M scores every time they have the ball with him in. And then Blake Baker and this LSU defense get a bye week, and they get to prepare a little bit for Jalen Milroe, who's going to offer something similar. So you're still terrified of, if they can't figure it out. But to me, this whole season as a fan has been a bit of a roller coaster. I thought the season was over as far as playoff hopes go when they lost to USC. I thought that was going to be a really big one, and that loss has aged poorly week by week as Lincoln Riley continues to lose football games. But I don't know how much of this is me being overconfident and versus I just don't want to admit how afraid I am. But with the way that they looked against Reese, Milroe provides just so many problems for this LSU defense to solve. But Blake Baker is a good defensive coordinator. He's good at Missouri, and they have some athletes here. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. The other part is I don't hate Kalen DeBoer. I can't.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, we're Kalen DeBoer guys on this podcast. I will say on paper, this is a good matchup. 5th in EPA per rush for Alabama's offense going up against the defense. LSU, it's 33rd. I mean, God, this defense is vastly improved. You shouted out to DC. God, what he's done with this unit compared to what they were in week 1 is impressive. Bama 10th in EPA per drop back. LSU 18th in defending it. LSU's offense 29th EP per rush. Even that's gotten better. God, they couldn't run the football at all, and they started performing well. 19th EPA per dropback, going up against a Bama defense that's 6th and 6th. Now, we've kind of questioned a little bit of Bama in their secondary in the past. I don't know if they're improved. It's certainly not a Nick Saban secondary. I think Nussmeier, this is a time, him and Kyron Lacey, they can potentially eat in this one.
And we'll see. I mean, Keon Sabb is going to be out for this one for Bama. And then Cole Adams also out for the year now for Bama, kind of the punt returner, do-it-all guy at wide receiver. Those are the only 2 injuries Bama has on the entire injury report. It came out about 25 minutes ago, if you're curious. So, maybe somebody can be added late. But Bama seems relatively healthy, and the laundry list of, names for LSU just continues to grow. So Bama's going to be the healthier team here. Brad, what time is the game?
I think they're at night in Death Valley.
What? So I don't care about injury stuff. I don't care about who's coaching. I don't care about who's playing. LSU by 1,000,000.
Oh boy, the fact Tyson unfortunately has adopted the Penn State thing for me, just being a nice guy. LSU, it's Brian Kelly's my guy, so I'm gonna be an LSU guy. So, but Tyson, we got football games every freaking day. I mean, college basketball's back too. Where can they find our stuff?
It'll be in the Discord app. Link is in the bio, or link is in the description. Go ahead, click it. We'll let you right in. It's free. Brad mentioned tons of different channels in there. College basketball is back up, and Brad had a 35-leg all favorites part. No, I'm just kidding. That would be electric. But yeah. So let us know what you're playing, when you're playing, why you're playing, what long shot you have this week. Help us turn $5 into a couple million. Let's get it rolling.
Yeah, let's get that cranking. Thanks for listening, guys. Like, subscribe, and share the show. Share it with a friend. Share it with an enemy. It does not matter to us. We do appreciate your guys' support. Smash that like button on the way out. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing we do. We will be back later in the week giving out our gambling picks, hoping to get on track, hoping to finish strong. We'll talk to you guys then. Peace.